Hey everybody, good to see you guys. As always, I've been gone the last 2 weeks traveling, and home for a week, then off to Cabo, and then home for a month. I'm not traveling at all in April. I'm very excited about it. So today we have the amazing, beautiful, wonderful, ridiculously
Oh,
awesome,
stop.
cool, sexy
Wait, let
Gail
me record
DeMarco.
this.
uh, Gail is going to do her presentation this week. But I think this is our fourth week of doing presentations, and I think we have one more week after this with Dennis D'Souza, and I'm not sure who the other person is for next week. So, Gail, the floor is yours.
Okay, so thinking about this presentation, a lot of times we hear something, but then we can't, take notes fast enough or take it in. So at the end of this, I'm going to have a link for everything I'm talking about, so you don't even have to take notes if you don't want. And so I'm going to kind of start out with it's not really everybody wants to know, hey, what do you say? What do you do when you go to a listing presentation? So before I share my screen, I just want to go over a couple of just basics. And I can't tell you how important this is. It's not what you say, it's how you make them feel, right? So there's always two parts to every listing presentation. It's the pre-appointment and then the live presentation. And there's always some, real critical questions before you go in the listing presentation. So, when you're on the phone and you're talking to them, by then, hey, what's their motivation? What's their time frame? You get most of that, right? Because if I can't get that, I'm not going to go in the presentation. I'm always looking for a motivated seller. The best is divorce. Second best is death. I hate to say that. Or debt, right? Those are the three things that make it happen. And of course, there's downsizing. But right now, with everything happening in our Bay Area, because we're Sacramento, I'm Sacramento and St. Augustine, we are fueled by the Bay Area. So my listing presentation is constantly evolving with what's happening. So let's talk about, right before I come, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say, hey, because I haven't, seen your home, and just like an appraiser would do, and I always compare myself to an appraiser. I'm not an appraiser, but I want them to know I'm an expert on the comps. I'm going to run comps, and if there's no comps, then I'm going to say, because a lot of times, how often, especially you, David, I right off the bat, I don't sell $14 million homes. Probably my average price point is $980,000. So I'm not a luxury agent, but I also do 700,000s. Here in St. Augustine, there's 500,000s, right? So when you can find a comp, it's really important to get all that pre-homework ahead of time. So I'm going to actually share my screen. Can I do that?
Yeah, you should be able to. Jay
See.
might have to move things over to you.
Nope, you're all set. You can share.
Okay. Let's see. How do I share my screen? Here we go. Gotcha. Okay. So can you guys see that?
Yep.
Okay. This is my less pretty thing. But, I just trying to put my thoughts down, and I'll put this also in the chat. So I'll say to them, I said, because I haven't been in your home, right? I want to make sure that I understand the value of your home. So before I make the range, and I always use the word range, because we had a lot of talk last week, how you don't give a price when you're there. Me, I'm there to take hostages. I'm going to give them a price before I leave. I'm going to get the listing signed. I don't want to go back for a second time. I don't want to have a second conversation. I'm there to win it, right? So I'm always saying keywords like range. And so I'll say, to get the most up-to-date value that this market will bring, this market, not last year's market or 6 months ago, I don't want to miss anything that'll be important to the comps when I bring your buyer. So I'm assuming they're going to work with me. I'm bringing them their buyer. Then I tell them I'm going to send you a detailed email with the comps before we meet. And, please take time to review these. Please make sure you review them. It's so important, because I don't spend a whole lot of time on comps, because by the time I get there, and I didn't always used to do that, because it was like I was flying by the seat of my pants. When I was going on 2 listing appointments a day, I didn't have time to pre-do this. I was just like, I'm going to go there. I'm going to crush it. It's different. is very different right now, right? So you want they're reading everything, they're listening to YouTube. So I'm going to send them comps now. If they're a pending, you have got to call that agent. Those are the most important comps, right? Because what sold, you know, unless it's like a month ago, it's not even relevant. So most of the time, all of us on this panel and a lot of us listening have great relationships with other agents. I will call that agent and I will say, hey, hey Cameron, Gail DeMarco, how are you? Hey Gail, what's going on? I'll say, hey, on your listing on 123 Banana Street, can you tell me like how many offers did you get? I'll start like that. And they'll go, well, you know, now I know if it's been on the market a week, we are seeing multiple offers right now. We're seeing a lot of things going pending. So I'll say, how many offers? And if it's been on 30 days or 90 days, I'm just going to say, hey, can you tell me where you're at as far as asking price? And if they say, hey, Gail, I can't tell you. I'm like, are you kidding me? I've helped you. You've been in so many of my transactions. I'm like, come on, Cameron. Just can you tell me, were you within 25,000? Were you with, you know, how close were you? And I said, the reason I'm asking is I have a very close friend who's going to is thinking about listing their home, and I really want them to be realistic. And the truth is, all my clients become close friends. They become family members. So I'm not BSing them, right? I'm just saying I have a close friend, because by the time I leave there and they sign that listing agreement, we're going to be friends. So I try to, and 99% of the time, I will find out what that's pending for. So now I don't tell them that until I get there, because now it makes me look more like an expert, right? So then I basically will ask this question, so important. Now I never used to bring a net sheet because I didn't want them to look at the bottom number, right? As far as my commission goes, right? Because then I don't want that number to stick out. But now I'm very, very transparent because I'm really, really convicted about my value in this shitty market and bringing them a great buyer and getting them what they want. And if you don't have that power, you know, I mean, the feeling of conviction and being, you know, really confident that you can do it, then they're going to read that. So I'll ask them, how much do you owe? What's that number? Roughly, just to kind of take the pressure off. Because, you know, I want to bring you a net sheet. I want you to know exactly what you're going to walk away with. And then I always say, I'll have the title company do it. I can't tell you how many times my analyticals have said, wait a minute, we're off $200 and you made $100,000, $300,000. So I take it off of me. I put on the title company. And then I'll just say, hey, do you have any questions before we meet? And the very last question I'll always ask is, do you like red or white? And I will bring the best bottle of white or the best bottle of red. And if she's like, oh, we don't drink, no problem. I'll go and I'll get them. And I'll say, well, my family has a winery. You sure you don't want a bottle? And they go, your family has a winery? I'm like, yeah, you ever heard of Camus? But I'll bring them some food. I never go to a listing appointment unless I have a gift, right? So here's basically how I start. So I'm trying to break it down so everybody listening, you could be a new agent, you could be an experienced agent. I want you to have a system and a step. So the first thing I'm going to do, and just like a doctor, okay, you're going to confirm, like I just got a confirmation from my dentist. I'm always going to confirm the appointment. I just went to a new physical therapist. They always take intake forms, right? I'm always going to treat myself like I'm a professional. I'm not going to just show up and, hey, you know, I'm one of, 10 agents you're interviewing. I really want from the very get-go for them to go, wow, she really is different than everybody else. So I'll confirm date and time. I provide a high note link now. We just started to use a high note and I freaking love it. And you'll see part of it. So there's a link to a seller questionnaire in this job form. And I'm going to show you, just like Craig talked about it last week. Mine's a little bit more. The only thing that's missing in mine is their social security. And they fill it out. They fill out almost everything. It's crazy. So this is going to be the first step. Then I go to, hold on one second. Hold on, I've got this. There we go. Okay, so that's the appointment date, time, confirmation, very simple. Then I will send them a BombBomb video. So it's really simple. I don't make it fancy. I just go like this.
Hi, Benjamin. Gail DeMarco here. Just got off the phone with you about 10 minutes ago. Looking forward to meeting with you Friday morning, 9 a.m. Like I said, I've sold quite a few homes in your neighborhood. I've broken a lot of records. And just kind of like to share with you my opinion on what could get your home sold and if that makes sense, or if you just keep it for 5 or 6 years. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. This is my cell number, but if not, to see you Friday morning. Hope you guys are doing well. And thanks again for taking the time. Bye.
That was so good.
And why did I say 5 or 6 years? I want them to think, oh my God, I can't keep this for that long. So I'm always trying to subliminally plant words that make them, go in the direction of working with me. So right after that, I send the BombBomb video. Then I do, here's just a little bit about me. Here's what it's like. Now, I've got 2 different listing presentations that I'm going to share with you because I have my Sacramento and then I have this one. So I'll do a little bit about, hey, meet me. Who is this person coming to their house? If I know they're Harley people, I'm going to throw a picture of me and my Harley in there, right? If I know they're rock and roll people, I'll put a picture of me and Willie Nelson in there. If they're paddleboarding people, so just kind of, it was funny. I put a picture of me paddling, just, hey, I'm a rock and roll person. My diversified dysfunctional family. I'm a risk taker, so get ready. We're going to go for a ride. I couldn't find a picture of me and a family, so I got my husband driving one of my clients around. Just a little bit. So now they have a little bit of idea, who you are, right? You're not just, how do I get out of this? Like I said, so there's a little bit about me, and then I'll put this in. So if you have any kind of video,
If you have equity and you want to cash out, now is the time to hire the Gail DeMarco real estate team. We can help get your home sold quickly, often with multiple offers and more profit. Our clients get white glove service, more money, and better terms.
so something like that, just a little bit. Then they see my YouTube channel. Then I'll go down here and I'll talk about, hey, what do most sellers, what is their biggest objection? The stress. Okay, so the 3 things that they say are the worst things, is most stressful in somebody's life is death, divorce, and selling a home. So my whole thing is I am going to take the stress out of you selling your home. That's me. Give it all to me. And so I talk about that. And let me make this bigger. So the initial consultation will be, we'll discuss your property, listen to your objectives, including special features, challenges, time frame, financial goals, any special contractual conditions. And maybe they've got, like I just had a house that has a tower for a cell phone. So things like that, would be something that would be an advantage or a negative to a buyer. So of course, I do the market analysis, preferred vendor recommendations, repaired landscaping, high resolution. So I go through all of this stuff, right? We don't have a lot of time, so I'll just put it in the link. Then I do, here's my listing marketing plan. Everybody wants to know, how are you going to sell my house? So this is something that they're going to get ahead of time now, because now that I'm using High Note, and then I'm going to go over to it and we'll go, that's a whole different part of this. So if, let's see, go to my, so I'm going to view this link right here. Now, keep in mind, I have not sold one house in St. Augustine. You would not know this from here, right? You wouldn't know it. So if you're a new agent, now sold 114, did a lot of business in Sacramento, but you could put me in Alaska and I can sell a house, right? Because there's really one thing you need to understand, and that's people. That's all. People, anybody can look up comps. You can find those on Zillow. I mean, it's people overthink all this stuff. So I put together something, I like something that shows I'm a professional. If I just put pictures of crappy homes, then I'm gonna get crappy buyers, right? So I'll go through this. And these are my numbers, obviously from California. I haven't sent all these out yet, but I won't include that. Hey, Laura, can you put a link to my TDF? She's on this as well. My TDF, Attorney DeMarco Friedman listing presentation. I don't see it in here. So then I'll talk about everything that I'm going to do. And you know what? At the end of the day, it's like I keep saying, it's not what you say, it's how you make them feel. So I will, you know, role play with one of you and talk about what I do for marketing. So I give them all the glitz. I never, ever, ever, even though I bring it printed, and I'm going to show you what I bring, I never leave a listing presentation behind unless they sign. If they don't sign with me, they can have my pen. That's about it. Because I'm not going to leave something for my competitor, right? That's not what I'm going to do. So talk about buyers. I talk about communication. What is the number one thing that sellers say? They want communication, right? That is the number one thing, and that's a big thing I talk about. Let's see. Okay. So from there I go to more marketing. So I talk about photography, I talk about staging. And it's a fact, homes that are staged are going to sell quicker. Great example, I had a vacant home, sellers would not pay for any staging. This is in Davis by UC Davis. It's on the market for actually over 4 months. Took it off during the holidays. Finally convinced them that I said, I'll pay for half the staging. And it sold in a week. So the good thing was I told them, if I sell this with the staging in the next 30 days, will you pay for all the staging? And they said, absolutely. So they really didn't, you know, so it's kind of giving them the assurance, I'm going to sell this in 30 days. You know, I'm willing to do it if it, you know, I'm willing to pay. I even said I'm willing to pay for the whole thing if it doesn't. So then I give them a, you know, here's the landing page. We do a floor scan. We do a 2-sided flyer. One side, the way our flyers work, the way that we do all of the upgrades, information, social media posting, all that crap, talking about the open house. So this is, like I said, what I'm sending them before I get there. So if it's a luxury listing, I'm going to absolutely talk about EXP Luxury. I paid $3,000 to be part of it. And I will tell you, it's very, very impressive. If you're not part of the luxury and you don't sell luxury and you want to, you should join a luxury team that does have a partnership with this. We've been waiting a really, really long time to have something like this to give to our clients. And for those of you, and believe me, I was like, well, what are we going to get? Here's what you get. You get 10 listings at $700 when they close that get to be on this global website that has a larger reach than Sotheby's, which I used to work for. So I talk about this. So if it's a luxury listing, I'm going to put this inside of my listing presentation. So, but right now I have it separated. We kind of, and I'm going to share all this with you guys because we had our graphic designer take it off the luxury listing package and put it in this. So we talk about the global marketing. So St. Augustine is very different than Sacramento. We actually have international buyers here, right? We don't in Sacramento. We have Bay Area buyers. So, but guess what? The people that have a house that is over $1 million, they think they're going to get some buyer from somewhere in the country, and maybe they will. I'd love to be wrong, but just to show that this is different. And I know KW does this because one of my best friends, Maura Tierney, she does, she actually was part of LUXVT, and they pay a premium over there. So I talk about YouTube. I talk about all the deals I've gotten off YouTube lately. And then it's the negotiation, right? So let me go. Hey, Laura, did you email me that? Is it in the chat? So then I'll talk about my negotiation and how nobody can out negotiate me. And honestly, it's the truth. My dad is Filipino and Chinese. My mother is from India. They would try to get a deal at Jack in the Box. So I learned at a very early age that, oh my gosh, but I need to make this fair, right? And when I say that, it's true. People like to negotiate. And I'm never one of those slimy agents that will say I have an offer if I don't have an offer. Oh, here's the drive to the link. Hold on one second. So never ever will I tell them I have an offer if I don't have an offer, right? But what I do have that most people don't use is something called Disclosures.io. Does everybody know about that? Okay, Disclosures.io, let me see if I could get on that, is one of the best programs that I've ever had, because you could put all your disclosures in there and every time the buyer has gone on there, and if there's any kind, maybe they looked to the roof 7 times, right? But you don't have an offer on a property. So I can tell an agent, honestly and confidentially, I've had 17 people download my disclosures. So based on these 17 people, I'm going to do a share screen real quick with you again. Let's see. If you don't have Disclosures.io, this is something I highly, highly recommend. So basically, here's your listings, and it'll tell you how many, who's in there, how many people have looked at it. Let me just go ahead and look at it. Has every report in here. You have your cover sheet, your CC&Rs, your prelims, your inspections, your roof, your home. I do everything up front, and I'm going to talk about that in 2 minutes. Is there somebody else doing a listing presentation at 12:30? Oh, I need to know if I should rush this or no. Okay. Whew. Okay, good. So I'm one of those agents. I will always do every inspection ahead of time. If they don't agree, I don't take the listing. And I tell them the reason we're doing this, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, the $1,000 or $500 or $2,000 you're going to spend now, you're going to not only get back, but you're going to basically sleep better at night. It's like buying a car with a Carfax. Okay, so now we can address health and safety. And in this market, people do want the Section 1 or the WDO, all that sort of thing done. But you don't have to do anything, but we want to present the true story on your home. So when we get an offer, the buyer's signing off on every single one of these with the offer. So we have pest inspection, property features. This is important. I do a property feature sheet with every single home. And this is one of the links that I'm going to put in the chat that you'll have access to, that you need to send out to your sellers after you sign the listing. So they will help. I mean, they will write things that, all of a sudden it kind of jogs their memory, and you're like, oh, okay, great. You actually have the guest unit plumbed for gas and, electric in case you want to put a stove in, but you didn't because you couldn't get the certificate of occupancy when the house was closing. Things like that. So I'll put in all the property feature sheets to remind the agent and the buyer, because I make them sign off on this. One of the other nice things is you can look at, let's see, you can look at offers. You can put them all in there. You can put all your offers together. right? It'll tell you exactly. So when you're doing a comparison, it's now, do you need this as much? Not now, right? Not now. And most agents can't even figure out how to upload it. But it is really good when you used to get 4 and 5 offers. But when you're getting one offer, you know, you're looking at one offer, right? Here's the best part, activity. So now I know how many people viewed this and what the interest is. Now, why do I want to know that? Because if I don't have an offer and somebody's been in there, like this gal, there was another house, the guy had been in there 17 times. I finally called him. I go, hey, Jeff, why don't we have an offer on this? I said, you know, well, what I originally said was, has your buyer found a house yet? I know you came and there's a lot of interest. What happened? Gail, and this is just as the market was changing. We don't want to insult you with an offer. We don't want to insult you. I go, insult me. I love insults. Give it to me. I said, we have something we can work with. And we were only 150,000 off, right? It was a, you know, a good size home. We ended up closing the deal together, and he, you know, his buyer got what they wanted, my seller got what they wanted. But had I not seen all of this, how many times they looked, and I won't even take an offer if the seller's agent, I mean, if the buyer's agent hasn't looked. I'm like, when are you gonna look at the disclosures? So it's kind of like being big brother, and you really understand what's happening. Okay, so that's Disclosures.io. So let's talk about what happens when you get to a house. The first thing I do, and I'm going to just go off no notes, because when you do as many listings as David's done and Craig and, you know, all of us on this panel, you kind of know it by heart. You don't need to bring anything. You don't need to bring anything. So the first thing I will do after I send the email, you know, have a conversation, I send the email, I get back the jot form, and hey, Laura, can you throw in the jot form? Can you throw that jot here? Let's see. Do you see the here we go. In the chat is the link for everything. So what I will do, as soon as I pull up there, I'll get there 15 minutes early. I will drive the neighborhood. I want to know, is there, you know, does the houses on the right, do they have a view? You know, should I expect a view, you know, from their house? Do they have a crappy neighbor with a, you know, an unkept yard? Do they have new construction coming on? I want to know all that, because guess what? When I sit in there, they're going to talk about it. So even when I'm running my comps, even if their neighbor's house was 5,000 square feet and theirs is 3,000, I'm going to not include it in the bottom, but I'm going to include it in, you know, I'll print a sheet. So when they talk about Mary Jo's house that sold for 750,000 and their house should sell for the same, then I could say, no, her house is much bigger. They don't ever look at square footage. They just know what their neighbor's house sold for, right? So then what happens is, do I have any questions from the panelists before I move any further? So, anybody? Okay.
No question, but there is one more presenter at the, it looks like Brian is waiting to get in. I'm not sure, or he got in, but.
Don't let him in, wait. So, no, I'm kidding. So I drive in there, and you know, this way I have a really good feel of the neighborhood. Most of the time I've been in that neighborhood, right? But guess what? Yesterday I was in St. Augustine showing property. I didn't know the neighborhood. So I'm a new agent and I'm a seasoned agent. So I'm just like you people who have never taken a listing, and you know, I really have empathy for you. So as soon as they open the door, you know, I have a big smile on my face, and first thing I do is I compliment them. Oh my gosh, wow, I love this is amazing. I love what you've done with the garbage cans. I love what you've done with the yard. I love what you've done with this entry. I always give them a compliment. Okay, because what do most agents do? They come in and before, you know, they'll say, let's have a tour. And of course I'm going to say, yeah, show me around. But I'm really, really trying to like build that rapport. So I was a wedding photographer, right? For 25 years. I have 5 minutes to get the pissed off groom who didn't want pictures, especially after the reception, you know, after the ceremony when they wanted to drink, to get them to bond with me. So that's what I look at this. It's like I have 5 minutes. It's your first 5 minutes when you walk in that door. So I'm walking around the house instead of saying, oh, you should paint this, and a lot of agents do this. They're taking notes. Oh, you should rip up this carpeting. Ooh, are you planning on painting? I'm just like, wow, wow, wow. Have me show me everything. Go right to the kitchen, put my stuff down, and then I walk out to the backyard. Now I'm making mental notes, roof, windows, you know, everything that may be an issue as far as my comps. So we sit down and you have to identify who your client is. Are they a driver? Then don't bullshit, get right to the point. If they're an amiable, they want to be loved, right? They want to be heard, that's a different thing. If they are an analytical, get to the numbers, right? So, what's my other one? If they're an expressive, just shut up and let them talk. So then now what if one of them are two different? One's a driver and one's an amiable. Guess what? That amiable is going to be the person giving me the price. And when I say that, the other gal last week, she was saying, how can they give you a price? Well, it's like having a solar guy come to your house and not giving you an estimate, not having you. That's why I'm bringing the net sheet right now. So when I say I'm going to give him a price, I'm going to give him a range. I'm always going to give him a range, right? But when you're sitting down, you know, and I talk about inspections and they're like, oh, you know, what doesn't the buyer pay? Yeah, the buyer will probably bring in, you know, their inspectors, but it's, you know, these are trustworthy inspectors. These three people, I take those inspections. Once you pick your inspector, I turn it into a marketing piece, and that's going to bring you more money. So we sit down, we talk about that. I talk about my photographer. He's not a $250 photographer. He's a $1,500 photographer. I talk about all that good stuff. And like I said, if it's a driver, he's going to say, well, what do you think? Now, I always have a gut feeling. I don't want to call it a gift because it's not a gift. It's a curse, right? Because when you go in, you have a gut feeling. It's usually not what they want. So first thing I say to them, I go, you know what? When are you planning on coming on the market? Can you be ready? Can you be ready in a week? Oh, no, I can't be ready in a week. Exactly. That's why I can't. I'm going to give you a range right now because based on today, I have this price. So then I will look at them and I'll say, hey, you've looked at Zillow. What is that price that you've discussed? What is that price that you won't go below? And if it's a driver, I will look to the wife immediately. Boom. And I'll look at her. And whoever, the wife will always spill the beans. And she'll go, well, we didn't want to go below 1.5. And he's going, and then he gets, you know, he like looks at me like, well, you're the professional. So sometimes they won't speak, right? And I'll look at them and I'll go, listen, if we're going to work together, we're a team. I'm going to ask your permission and guys, this is normally a 3-hour class that I teach when I'm teaching listings. So I'm doing this in the 30 minutes. So if I'm jumping and you want to get on a call with me and ask the other stuff, but at the end of the day, I'm like, we're a team. If you can't be transparent here, I said, I just want to know how off the mark you are. They said, well, give me your price. So then I normally always say this, is your front door unlocked? And they all say yes or no. If they say no, I said, well, you better unlock it and open it. And they all like, why? I'm like, because you're going to throw me out. You're going to chase me out of here. I said, because you may not like what I have to say, but at the end of the day, you know, you are, if the house is worth $1 million and they want $1.1 million, I'm going to say you're in the range. You are in the range. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, here's how this works. Our market is directly tied to the stock market. Most of the buyers that are buying are taking money from their stock and they're using that as an ATM. They're using that as their purchasing down payment. And that's for us in Sacramento from Silicon Valley. So I said, just like the stock market, we're going to check the prices the night before. And we're both going to come to an agreement. If I could get you $1.1 million, I make more money, you know, but at the end of the day, days of market are going to kill you. They're not going to hurt you. They're going to kill you because when I have a buyer, and we talked about this before, so I'm not telling you anything new. When I have a buyer and they're looking at property, they see anything over 30 days, we're coming in 15% under. So I don't want to take how much time do I have left right now? Oh, I'm over. Anyway, guys, I'm over, and I apologize because there's another guy coming in right now, right? And
Yeah, Brian, yeah, he's
yeah.
here.
So, but I will never leave without the listing. I don't tell them if they say they're gonna, oh, the most important thing that I did not show you. And let me just show you really quick. Let's see. Hopefully it's in here. I don't know. Hey, Laura, can you put in the stats? I always bring my stats. I will show them exactly what pre-listing, maybe this is it. I can't hear you, Laura. So anyway, I usually have my report card. It shows them, hey, I sold 89 million last year, 400 million with my team. This is very, very important. I forgot this one. So this is actually, I'll bring these things right here, the tax records, the Zillow, because I don't give it to them. I know what they're looking at. RPR is really good if it's 5 stars. That usually tells me I'm right on target. Then I'll bring, hey, here's my ranking report. I'll show them, okay, our office is #1. Here's my sales. Here's our team sales. Do something like that. Then this is the most important thing I have. I have a cheat sheet. So I don't give them this. I have my assistant do all of this where we know what the range is. And it'll give you the comps, and it'll give me if I just bring that one sheet alone, I'm fine. Then I do that. This is our introductory email, which I'll put it's in the link. A sample of the timeline, a sample of our property brochures, property features, and exactly. So, and I have the same exact thing for our Sacramento listing. So any of this I'm willing to share with you guys. You can copy it. I don't care. It's all in the link. But anyway, sorry guys, I went over.
Oh, it's great stuff. I mean, you're amazing. It's funny, every time I see you guys' presentation, I feel like I should just go sit in a corner and cry. Because they're so good. All right, Brian, we're gonna get you. We got about 20 minutes left. Hopefully you can do a 20-minute presentation, because I know you're like me, you get in and get out, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Mike, take it over. Thanks, Gail.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
You're good.
No, great job. All right, well, and I'm good. I'm glad you went over, Gail, because I can condense mine. What I'd like to do is really highlight, I think, the most important things that I do. First of all, let you know that probably 80% of my listings for the last decade are relists. Property actually already sold. I'm familiar with the client. I work pretty much 100% by referral. And if it's not a referral, or if it's a new client, typically I still take the same approach, because my goal really lately is to do 2 things. One, to get in and just understand who I'm going to be working with if I don't already know them, but most of the time I know them. So, it's a warm and fuzzy presentation. Gail, I'm glad you said RPR. For those of you who do not use RPR,
Right.
What I did was I got really, really proficient in RPR. RPR, how I present it to the client is I let them know that National Association of Realtors built a system that is approved by appraisers. It is an appraisal desktop review approach. And I don't know if I could share my screen here or not. let's see if this comes up. So this is an example. You guys can see this. I'm going to slide this one over. So this is an example of a property I just closed. And this is a seller who I've done 7 properties with over the years. Her family, I've helped her kids buy homes. I've helped her buy and sell investment properties. And this is an example of what RPR looks like. I actually pre-build the property I'm going to go meet the seller and talk about. So if I pre-build my desktop review, it's already up and ready to go. And then when I get there, I can refine my values really quickly. So if they've added square footage, if they've made some adjustments, if there's new things to the property, how's the market right now in their area? I can slide these over and move it. So it's hot right now, or maybe it's slow. RPR allows you to adjust the value. Is it inferior? You can see in the home condition. These are opportunities. And then when you go back up here on your CMA or your market trends, or when you're refining the value, you can actually even rebuild your comparables and redo comps. I love it, okay? Because I actually do it in front of them. I like them to see exactly what I'm going to see, and I do it in about 5 minutes. I have it ready to go, and I just sit down with them and I get to this. So if you haven't used RPR for yourself and or for your client, you can reset the property values. You can go back in and rebuild. It starts with its own value. I love it. It looks really professional when it's all said and done. And I have reports for days in here, and I just love using it, because really people still want to know, what is an appraiser going to see? What are they going to see? How are you going to come up with the value? You already get to preload all your comps in here. So learn this system, use it. There's advanced areas up inside. There's different things you can do with it, but I just like the opportunity to share it with a seller. But this is the part that I want to show. Can you see that screen? You see this? Okay, good. This is an in-person questionnaire. The first part of this is stuff you should know before you get there, or you are
We're still looking at RPR.
Oh, you are. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me see. Stop share. Let me share again here. And where to go? All right, you see that? Nope.
Got to share the screen.
Yep. There it is. Okay, sorry guys. Thought it was ready. That's better. Okay, that's the wrong one. Shoot. Sorry, had it preloaded and okay, here we go. This is a in-person seller questionnaire consultant thing that we put together. What we did was we set this up so you're able to go into the property with these things already in mind. You're going to know the reason for selling. A lot of times, you talk to them, who the decision makers are. Is there an HOA? These are mostly things I already know, because these are homes I've already sold in the past, or I represented them when they bought. You can use this questionnaire, and I put a copy of it in the chat for you already. But this is the most important part of this is my presentation consultation. If I haven't sold them the property, or I wasn't their representation, but I know them and I've been in the house, the most important thing you want to be able to do with any seller is understand what they're really going to expect from you in this process. And the only way I've learned to do that is to ask them this very simple question. Before we get going, can you guys take me back to what it was first like when you bought this home? Like, what sold you on this home? And get quiet, because what they're going to tell you is what you need to know about the future buyer, or the buyer they think is going to buy the house. So what you're going to be able to do is start asking, what attracted you to this neighborhood? Tell me about the top features. I want to know what things about this property really uniquely stood out to you. I've had people tell me, Brian, it was so hard for us to get in the house. There was no lockbox. The listing agent was an asset manager. It was really challenging. It was hard. It was just not a good experience. And so that allows me to then ask them some questions. So then how do you feel about a lockbox? If you didn't have access, how do you feel about a lockbox when you sell? And then you get quiet, because I've had people tell me, oh, we don't want one. We'd like you to be here at every showing. Now I know how to handle my listing presentation. Or, you know what, Brian, we were frustrated. We want people to be able to get in. We want it to be a good experience for buyers. We're okay with getting out of the house. I'm just gonna walk through questions based upon their experience. And what compliments have friends and neighbors made about your home? Things that, again, are going to stand out for me in my presentation, because when you do a listing presentation after you've gone through a consultation like this, you don't really have to do one. It's done for you. They did it. How do you feel about open houses? We hate them. Great. I don't do them. How do you feel about open houses? We love them. Great. We do them. I'm just, I'm not going to speak that way, but you guys understand what I'm saying here. The goal for me is to understand what they're going to expect. Then what I love to do is go through and talk about what went good, what went bad. Have you met with any other agents? How do you feel about open houses? What I was just covering. When it comes to showing your property, how would you like it to be? So I had 5 years in the luxury space, and we did this as a team. But when you take a luxury experience like Gail and some of you have done in Park City, and some of these higher priced properties, what I learned is somebody that's buying or selling their very first home, they've never had a great experience or a bad experience. This is going to be their first experience. So what I want to do is make sure that their first experience is set up as if they were selling a $10 million home. Because if you've sold a $10 million home, you know what that seller is going to expect. Why wouldn't a first-time home buyer want to know it? Right? So we didn't deviate. We just kind of walked them through. And when it comes to showing your property, like I said, communication, how would you like to be communicated? Concerns. The goal of this simple questionnaire, again, you can arrange it in whatever flow you like. The goal is to have the seller be involved in all of the things that really are important to us as agents. What do we want to know before we hit the market about this particular property if we don't already know it? Things about the windows, all the stuff that we want to know. But honestly, you guys, with a seller listing appointment for me today, it is really their outcome. If I can understand their outcome, I'm going to be able to build trust with them. I'm not about rapport. I know there's people out there who love to build rapport. People don't buy or sell with rapport. They buy with trust. If you can get the trust, rapport will come. But if all you have is rapport, there's sometimes that you just don't get picked or called back because you do not have the trust factor. The trust factor comes from really understanding what's most important to them. And the buyers today are who I like to anchor into when I'm suite or whatever. You need to text or email me proof of funds. I tell my sellers I don't want to waste their time and have anybody look at their house that can't prove that to me through the agent that they have proof of funds and a fully approved or DU approved buyer loan package. It slows down the showings, it minimizes the showings, but what it does is it makes the showings of the people that are going to be there really important. And then I always show the property when it's new within a window of 2 hours early. Like if I've got a new listing coming on the market this weekend, I'm going to tell the seller, hey, I'm just going to make the first day of showings a window of 2 hours. That way you're not out of the house. It's a Saturday and I want to and we've either missed the mark or we're right on target because we're going to get offers. And that's the goal. I'm also very transparent. When I get an offer or when I get an agent who calls me and asks me specific questions, I ask them, could you please email me your questions so I can share them with the seller? I like sharing things with my sellers because that's my fiduciary relationship. So if I've got an agent who has a buyer who's asking good questions of the agent, I could answer them. But if I answer them, I'm not the owner of the property. I'm not the seller. I like the buyer and the seller to communicate through the agents. And I encourage other agents to email and put things in writing so I can share. I'm very transparent. My sellers love the fact that I share questions, I share information with them. They like that. I don't like to make decisions. I don't like it when I call another agent and I say, hey, you know, my clients are considering making an offer on the property. Have you turned anything down yet? Do you have any, you know, what's insulting, all that kind of stuff? No. Hey, put that in writing and share it with the seller. Let me run it by him. I would rather have the seller tell me no and let the other agent know, hey, the seller's not going to consider that offer. That's insulting. But I don't know. I'm not going to say that. You know, I'm not going to tell you, you know, Cameron told me this, Mr. Seller or Mr. Buyer's agent or whatever. I'm going to say, no, let me run that by my seller. But I'm not going to waste your time if you're my seller. I'm going to let you make decisions. You know what I've learned? Deals go together when a seller and a buyer communicate through agents. But when agents get in the way of the sale, then it's very hard to communicate properly between the two parties. So I've learned that over the years that sellers know they can trust me because I'm not going to hold back. I'm going to call them. I'm going to email them. I'm going to share everything that comes my way because at the end of the day, I don't know what changed last night. I've had sellers call me the next day after saying, Brian, you know, we're not going to go below this number. Hey, some things changed last night. We're a little more motivated today. Let's go back and maybe revisit some of those offers or those buyer questions or things that we had. So that's really it. It's for me. I'm a very transparent agent. That wasn't a presentation. That was more of a principle of how I operate. And I really want you to know that the best thing you can do going into any listing presentation, in my opinion, is to understand the experience your seller had when they bought their home. If you can really get them to unpack, you know, Brian, it was a piece of crap, or Brian, it was beautiful. It was hard to get in. It was easy to get in. How do you feel about that? How do you, what do you think about open houses? I've seen agents and I've lost listings because I came in guns blazed. I was prepared. I had all my numbers. I had, you know, top 100 in Remax in California, and I had all my credentials, and I came in too hot and heavy too early with here's all the things I do. And then I found out I was losing listings because sellers actually didn't like an open house. So if I say I'm going to do a bunch of open houses, man, that's like, they're not telling me out front. Oh, internally, they're just saying, man, they're not going to use my house as an office or whatever, right? So how do you feel about open houses? How do you feel about a lockbox? How do you feel about a sign? I don't need a sign in your front yard to sell your house. First thing I tell them, if you're having a short sale issue or you're going through some drama, you don't want your neighbors to know. I don't care. I don't need a sign. I let them know. And I'm talking to you guys like agents, but I don't talk to them this way. I talk to them very gently. Like I let them know, just so you know, the last 5 homes I've sold didn't have a sign, didn't have a lockbox on the property for agents. But in the MLS, here's what I did do. I did put yes for MLS access through a lockbox because I know agents will call me for a showing if I say yes for a lockbox. If there's no there and they've got an out-of-town buyer, they're not gonna be able to set up an appointment quickly because they don't see a lockbox. So what I do is I take a lockbox, I give it to the seller, we put a key in it together, and when it says yes, I get calls. If it's not convenient for me to be there, if it's not convenient for the seller to be there, I'll say, send me proof of funds. I'll know it's a serious buyer. I might know the agent. And then what I'll do is I'll ask the seller to take the lockbox and put it out on the front porch because we have a really good buyer and a really good agent coming over today. And we really need to get them in, and you're okay with that. That's very rare it happens. Usually I can set it up and either have somebody there if it's a property where it needs to be shown. But if you understand the MLS and how agents operate, most agents don't preview. They just run around and show property and look for a lockbox or look for access and do things on a whim. And I come from the old school where, no, we didn't do that. We previewed every property we showed before we showed it to a buyer. And when you do that, you have confidence and you show properties that you know are going to fit. So I let the sellers know that. Most of the agents are not going to be able to get over here and preview your house before they show it. That's what the pictures are up to, what, 38 or 40 and virtual tours and all the other things that are going on. But if they're okay with it, I'll ask them to hold on to a lockbox with a key and leave it in the house. And then that way, if we have a home inspector or somebody that needs to get in, we can get them in quickly and no one has to really be there. But most of you, like Dave, I'm sure in Park City, you know, there's some very large, very expensive, very private homes with a lot of really good art in there. And they don't want people just walking through their house without someone there with them. And a lot of times that's just something you have to get around. But just having a lockbox there so the seller trusts you or the other agent, then you can at least get things done a little quicker. That's a really good example of how probably most of my conversations have gone, because I'm selling, you know, million plus properties, million plus homes priced. And those sellers just expect a little bit more Nordstrom service. And when you can bring it to them, they just trust you. And you don't really have to put a lot of that in a presentation. It's just more about they get to tell you, like a concierge, here's what I'm expecting, here's the, you know, and we go from there. So that's a condensed version. It's 10 o'clock.
There you go. Perfect. That was awesome, Brian. And can you do me a favor? Can you send me, email me that form there, and I'm going to post it in the tribe on the live stream there. I'll post it in there so people can get a hold of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I did put a copy of it in the chat. Does it open?
I didn't see it in there.
Yeah, it's in there. It's in there, Mitch.
Okay,
And-
good.
That link work?
One last thing I'd like to share with everybody is EXP Corporate with the luxury division. They called me and they asked me to do an hour-long presentation on listings. And so we're going to be doing that for the EXP Luxury Mastermind. It's next Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern time. And it'll be similar to what I did last week, except I have almost an hour to present instead of a half an hour. So I'll do that. And then Ryan, you reminded me of something I remembered a long time ago. When you're talking about a client, whether it's 500, 5 million or 50 million, we have a term called it's luxury at every price point. And when you sell expensive properties, and then you do something at for 500 or $1 million, you can still say, I'm going to give you that same service. So anyway, thanks. Just thought I'd mention that.
Next week, guys, we have Dennis D'Souza and Matt Battier doing their presentation. That'll be the last of our listing presentations, I believe. So it's been great. So all of these are on my YouTube channel. If you want to go back and review any of these, they're all on my YouTube channel. We do have a portal coming shortly, hopefully in the next 30 days, where all of them will be housed there too. So again, just go to my YouTube channel if you want to watch some of the past ones, and we will see you all later. Thanks, guys. You guys are awesome as always. Bye.